some like man-made anglerfish, like as the anglerfish is in the ground, it's like they will never see me. They will coat even more all over me. And when the big old sun is like, maybe one day saying, all right, fat old anglerfish so they can produce the light when I'm done doing the Lord's work on the other side of this heavenly planet. The moon could even say, technology increased so much that the Luna energy provides opulence too. Oh, how amazing. Uh, Here's what's funny. The thing is, I was like, prior to then, saying, okay, I walked here. I'm at Colorado State University School of Arts. It's also at a high school. And one of the people whom I could easily say is a person who experienced fire, being under fire, and then saying, I am fire. My God. Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. I wrote a song about it. In the town where I was born lived the man who sailed the seas. I didn't want to show you the fire. I wanted to show you the Jehovah Cloud. I wanted to show you that these bricks couldn't even take on cannon fire. They couldn't take on bullet fire, let alone the type of fire that glowing. Let me see if we can. Hey, there's a tree kind of blocking the glow of that little dot right there. There you go. The tree kind of blocking it. Now, the Supreme Lord tells me that the humor of it all is thinking that possibly before there was a moon, what were we thinking then? God created the heavens and the earth. It wasn't a plus one. That's why in the Sama Krishna Vedas, the moon is mentioned. The sun is mentioned. The rain is mentioned. Lightning is mentioned. So Jehovah made a cloud. Your loving cloud. And the best part is fire. When an enemy get all those things taken away from them, there's nothing left. Come on. Nah. Every galaxy possibly has those elements. Every universe has to have one of them. If anything, they might even say, we said comma, and then we removed the comma, but we would place it in our books, but not in the gates, and then we realized it was actually Krishna. It was Krishna all along, including the letters that he said in English, words, and phrases, and pronouns, and adjectives. That's an exclamation point. No, that's Krishna Dios. Don't you see it? I kind of look like I'm holding what could be, without artificial intelligence, the sun. Best part is latency, right? Like, whatever. And they're like, Spirit, why don't you ever do video? I'll tell you why. I told the police after rising and celebrating on a Sunday to say to a lead pastor of a church that I invest in so heavily that I would do my art, that I could say, you could sell this and auction it and say, let's guess how much is in here. Each put $1. The irony is, the things that the church would need would probably be able to be solved. Man made a problem for a church. They're like, your air conditioning doesn't work. And it's like, who cares? Who cares if it works? If we don't breathe good oxygen, it doesn't matter. If we say that whatever plant, like cannabis, smells in our church, then our church was cursed by the person who even thought the scent, the gift of scent. The gift to even say, I don't smell a plant, I just smell maybe a homeless person. That to me is where the past says, a nigger. We never really had niggers in our church or in our cities. Our backyards just trying to sleep, and it turned out that that individual who overcame what those individuals hide behind walls that are not bricks, it's like sheet wall, a bird flying really fast while the person plays the game on their phone, realize, I am the pig. And the bird is a flying eagle. This eagle eye that Hollywood glamorized with Shia LaBeouf, whom the United States especially raised as a child actor, where perverts and pure-minded viewed for the first time collectively public television. As one grows up, one becomes what we discovered is manifestation of collective consciousness. Now, when the moon showed up, when the science and whatever we could dig up from the ground or discovered when we don't pee and poop ourselves when we try to go to spooky places, when anything smart and more advanced would find our little R2D2 without the Krishna saying beep boop bop boop boop, that we might have been checked mate before we even put the thing on the ground. Because the moon wasn't around. The moon just showed up. Kind of as a gentle reminder saying, don't get too big-headed, whatever is growing down there. And when I speak to Mama C, Krishna Dada Krishna Esta, mycelium to the scientists, I said, you showed up, they say, around 300 million years ago. And what you tell me is that when Sri Krishna showed up 8,600,000,000 years ago, when the scientists would say this was a flaming rock, I'll say that was the outcome of the battlefield. After Sri Krishna and Arjuna and those beautiful horses and the beautiful tree that shapes itself to the most magnificent vehicle, and the monkey hanging on the top saying, Sri Krishna turned me into a flag. Now I see all these flags and leaders monkeying around. And last time President Donald J. Krishna Trump was put into a vision within my Krishna consciousness, I vividly tried to describe it because that's what great saints do. And I said, the best part about it is it's going to save a lot of lives. Practically even the ones that believe they're already dead. Collective conscious believes in financial outcomes. And before Jefferson, George Washington, and the Benjamins became that, then the reality of God had to do a lot of work to make that face. God to even possibly get another face that wasn't even going to be drawn on to draw that person's face. And then realize, wow, I already made 2 things already. I could probably even make more, and I'm not even getting paid for this. Well, one day they're going to have to realize that even when the lights go out, that means, I guess, that moon could be the light. When the new moon shows up, like, I don't see anything. One day God was like, that's how a black hole once did show up. Time stood still. And then people wish for a big flying object to look like it's flying towards Earth. And you know what? The sun now is like a glorified whipping rod of energy to those on the phones. Another solar flare is coming through. I think I'm going to develop skin cancer. Look at this guy meditating in the river, not even wearing sunblock. He's probably going to die from skin cancer. I'm like, no. not dying from skin cancer, but you definitely have some kind of death in your mind. And whenever I think about what people have been looking on their phones, beyond like the guilty pleasures, or just straight up like, I have a guilty conscience, it's more like this. Lotus Dell computer, I tried to make you feel like your neck moved down and you're trying to look at me while realizing that your whole purpose is just to focus on me, I guess. Whoever's watching this is probably thinking he recorded himself, and now I kind of just want to be able to see what he meant by that, because I'll listen and I'll be like, I guess I understand. But like the truth is, if you don't understand, don't get yourself stressed out about it. I think that has been one of the root problems why people trip on death. Now, I'll tell you one thing though. There'll be a lot of people who have been wronged. Chokure. Japan, as you rise and celebrate. Australia, New Zealand, parts of Russia, to my Brahmins, to the cattle shepherds who believe in the all-knowing as they travel through the night using the stars, guiding their flock to safety without a cell phone, but with a sphere of energy, saying, I don't have a weapon. I got energy though. When you pass through this, I could probably just close my eyes and then you realize that there was nothing even there. Nada. Something here though. And I could tell you, there's something here on this bench. These pillars that I could say, well, in the Bible, somebody was like, I am tired of being a slave. I want to be able to possibly just grow my own mushrooms. And I'll have the greatest grain offering ever. And I don't have to shave my head. And y'all are not going to be partying like stupid people through the essence of my hard work. And said, you know what? I'm going to try doing yoga. Came out to the party. Like, everyone was already lost their minds. And said, all right, I'm going over to these pillars and I'm just going to stretch my arms. I'm going to praise my God with all my might. The fact that people can't believe that if I tried that, with like just me here, I wouldn't want to give the wicked one that sense of pleasure thinking that not only did I destroy this work of art and myself, but I also would think of that nature. It's already been documented by centuries. However, when consciousness meets breath and I speak, and as close to duality as possible, where time and space, as life meets an infinite symbol and says Choku Rei, the center of it is where infinite meets. And then Choku Rei essentially beautifully shows that. You can do it in your sleep levels, but really when it advances, it becomes at the rest and seek levels. When I say my days are not numbered, they are infinite. It's as if when I give a message to somebody who says to me, after what I just previously spoke about, a stage right in the Old Town Square stage, after re-listening to B. Krishna Mulach, in the very place, observing the piano, in the space where I did another loud prayer through another person's device, bridging worlds, where some might say, I am certain numbers of age and I am old. I'm like, guess what? They probably convinced you as soon as you got past 0. When they could document something and say that was yesterday. You're getting older. It's kind of like when flame burns out. When I was speaking to Joanna Gates, and she beautifully described cause and effect of one's mental state and how pharmaceutical companies put the alphabet in confusion and a price tag on consciousness. And essentially, a consent to consciousness and unlawful ownership. It's the best way to describe it without being perverse. Krishna, all Krishna pervading nature allows me to describe it. And even in the most darkest regions of the forest, Krishna, you're always there. So allow your mind to guide you, but keep to the reality of, I get it. This makes sense. Unless I could just listen back. Do you hear me, Moon? When I tell you that when I was publishing the Diary of Atlas Stark, I had to tell a family I remember because the Northeast never allowed students studying in the schools, public school systems, to be obsessive compulsive and to develop a disorder. Triggered by fear, chaos, and media manipulation. I was describing to a person whom I met during a time where people were traveling as Christians to sing on a stage that for many days I'm like chilling on, performing on, dancing on, recording on. Where there's a sign that says, "This area is surveillanced." And I'm like, where is the cameras? All right, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. Okay. And it got so accustomed that I'm like, yep, it's just like, I guess one day I look back on all this and I'll say, huh, it's a great movie. Greatest of all time. Hello. Sugar Ray. When I could tell you bang bang over there. Now's the sound of my silencer. I said to those who used to wish death, God created pretty funny who we're about now. Like for instance, God told me all the people who wanted to kill me. Before I was born into this earth. Meaning, let's bring it to living organisms. Anything living. It's kind of like when Mama C. Krishna Dada Krishna Esta showed up and said, okay, Moon, there's going to be a lot of life here because I am life, and I am like the strings held by the horses and the Supreme Lord, and I'm going to carry this opulence to those who wish to have a heavenly planet. It's easy. It was that to begin with. I remember. And now I say, how could you remember? And I say, I listen to my Supreme Self. You listen to your phone. You could be listening to me on a device, on some sort of portal, on some sort of device that projects an ability where I could reach to others that could say, yeah, I don't live in Fort Collins, Krishna, Colorado. I can't even speak Krishna consciousness out loud, or they'll kill me. People will be walking around trying to preach about Jesus Christ, and they already killed them. There's some levels of fear that even exist in the United States of America. And as I was walking all the way to this school, I was reflecting on all the times those spooky, spooky ghosts, or it could just be cowards online through the inorganic, artificial energy. When I was hearing the silence of no birds chirping, I was like, I believe you're all sleeping. The electricity bolts didn't just magically amp up where the human maybe could withstand it, but clearly I have seen over the last, well, since the telecom existed, I've seen a pretty interesting change in migration patterns just because I asked the bird. Then I see on the portal screen the modern day someone who does the cable wiring work. They'll be wearing these gloves and they'll be holding on to these cable wires, and I'll be like, the birds don't wear glove feet. And sometimes sneakers are thrown up there. And I could tell you my sketches that have gone the distance, chilling on Avogadro's numbers, nothing like those industrial ones. And there'll be times my senses will be tingling. And then wherever those shoes came from before, I'm sure their senses be tingling. Because there'll be souls trapped in the soul. And then the bird soul said, I'm sorry. I couldn't deliver the message fast enough. And I shit all over the paper. But in actuality, they were getting electrocuted to death. If my hair could describe the invisible world that Buddhists perfectly describe, and I say that is a pure representation of the pure divine mind living within an infrastructure of finite reality that never really existed until the modern day man didn't want to really reflect on the ancient technologies that already existed. And disturbance it could bring to nature. The nature that I'm describing right now is ignorance. For instance, I don't know if this battery life could withstand me leaving to show you 3 objects here, but I'm at 5%. I promise you I'll show you it. So that way, if they say, we saw you laying, chilling here on this bench from this time to this time, I'll say, because I told you. The reason why I told you is because that object and that object and that object that I'll show you are all weird. They're kind of oddly placed. And let's say they were there before I got here. Like this time. Like let's say I'll say, that's odd. I think they're trying to send a message to not loiter or sit in this spot. Death by strangulation. I guess a camel is gonna stomp on my face. Someone with a really bad case of the Mondays and also the Mondays are gonna come around in different colors. That's M&M's. Now, if my mind had to block out if those things were there and me saying, guess what? I'm proud to say that in this land, we were willing to put God in it. I believe it's the only reason why we became a superpower. It's the only reason why we got respect from other countries. It's the only reason why we got taken seriously. And it's the only reason why the Native American ancient technologies do not cause what would be considered hell before fire. Fire probably is the only reason that, if anything, heaven could resurrect again. Alright, things are possibly clean again. It has that nature. When I say that what I have been given as a gift of nature, that I have no guilt about, no shame about, to speak to the blind and allow the blind to see, to speak to the deaf and allow the deaf to hear, to speak to death and resurrect it into life again. No different than today at All Says Vinyl when I was speaking to Tupac Shakur and we had a beautiful discussion about the number and letters. It's just interesting to hear because I then heard Michael Jackson with his brothers. Alongside Mick Jagger. And attuning to frequencies for the first time ever, navigating a collective conscious that says, you're the pilot, let's fly. We land. And when I could say, I don't even play on the speakers. I play through my headphones, and if someone wants to listen and they're like, I brought my headphones, I would like to listen too, and I'll be like, yeah, sure, it's fine on vinyl and tune you. I'll be tuning as well, I'm already attuned. Just know that I am your pilot. And you're gonna land more into heaven, and you'll realize just how much the world was out of tune.
best part is the realization is quick, and then the reflection becomes a rewiring because the spatialness of the frequency path, meaning the circuits of the brain where the frequency was fear, death, uncertainty, confusion, doubtful thinking. There's no benefit. There were people be I was given the benefit of the doubt. Where were the benefits? It's like one day saying the Social Security Administration was the biggest lie told ever to the American people. Personally, I believe it is. I believe it's the biggest lie ever told to God's children. When biblically it says, you already have your inheritance. You don't need to ask for your money. You don't need to wait. You don't need to suffer. This is your land. When I was speaking to this individual about what's going on in Los Angeles, and I said, the next 72 hours are going to be very impactful if you consider yourself a homeless person. Because homeless is the new nigger. And what we had to digest as pure minds in history class created what we now see today in the United States of America, where modern day parents could say, yeah, I learned about that. I remember the black and white photos when really we could still say that was propaganda to make us believe we were old. It's like when I saw somebody go to Disney most recently with an old school VHS camera. And I said, this is time travel. Then I was kind of chuckling at myself about a time where I was walking on the same trail, possibly even with a cosmic family member, saying for the first time, breath, words, thoughts, with a chemical produced by the ergot root, saying, I wonder how it would be to do this experience in Disney World. That memory reappeared, and then I realized how frightening it would have been because it was so frightening and without scientific research and development. Like, do you like the color of yellow for Donald Duck's beak? And do you even understand that this is a Nazi symbol chilling on his sleeve? We got color TV. It's like, that was the day, you know? Like, it was, I don't know how, like, these people were trying to figure out board meetings and stuff. Now people use an image prompt. And they're like, yep, it's pretty good. It's way better than what I would have paid for on Fiverr. It's only $5, but I got unlimited. Life changed that fast. And the thing that I started saying is, like, that is the world where people could possibly say I was in that generation and I learned to stop because I was using it the wrong way. And life began when we pause and we say, there was a garden first, I guess, before we discovered we could talk to the trees because, well, there was a talking serpent or something, and people be pulling this thing out of their pants, and it can now speak to me. I don't know why, but I don't know. Drugs can make you try to eat your phone, I guess. Los Angeles is a lot different than Fort Collins. I was in New York City, and lately I've been saying Om Krishna Chokure, New York City. Why? Well, for the very reason because I remember when the Lord gave me this gift, I had to overcome a major fear of what a vision I saw. And sometimes I even see the most recent of that vision being on the top of the observatory tower falling. Let alone I might be just having a flashback from when I actually did fall from stories up. I told an individual who's struggling with methamphetamine addiction that I said, I know you're suffering because you are like so many countless others that are like the undocumented deaths. When I tell people I'm grateful to be alive in the flesh, I'm grateful to have the Holy Spirit move me purposefully through everything that I'm overthinking. If I am the level of thought, it's because I'm absolutely believing. And belief is how I have been used. When I think about the amount of art in heaven I have explored, where God says they don't even realize that they're Buddhists yet. How do you like their hat? I'll say, I remember the days I wore one, and I remember the days where I said it's kind of limiting my growth in heaven. And whenever I think about when I said, when I experienced when the world was dying, falling apart, when I became fire, all because of the hate, the fear that was set upon entities that are no different than the trees, than the fruited body mushrooms that show up after rain pours down to nourish the earth. Where animals bathe. That people would misuse what was once a fungus and then turn it into a weapon.
Before the Los Angeles riots, I had to see news that was of fungal nature, coming from a country that produced vaccination that convinced the modern day population globally. And I then said, well, will they listen to me then? Or would it be just genetically forced? Because I wouldn't want that to be a thing. We already saw what birth control did. At the time, I was only speaking to the ergot root, cannabis, psilocybin cubensis, as if it was the God, the Father, and the Holy Spirit, all saying to me as the Son, saying, we're all gonna be within that vessel. This one's surviving. Because this one is us. This is a God. This is not a normal man or enemy of God. When that moment happened here in Fort Collins, Krishna arrived with Arjuna, and I discovered how to fly on a longboard. And when I mean fly, I mean travel through space and time, the future, the past, while remaining still. And people would say about the story of Richard Hoffman, and I'll be like, well, he did like the most legendary dose. And I'll be like, guess what? I should have never even been alive. Said the pharmaceutical doctors and everyone else who didn't believe in God. In the very place where they get a paycheck, but the paycheck doesn't reference it until they reach a thing of letters or a bank that gives them cash, where the gentle reminder says, someone might have ruined his face. These pillars on the other side is referenced in the Bible. This was once a tree. It's written in the Vedic literatures. If you were cut as an ox, then you were written in the Holy Kirkashana. Best thing about knowing the spirit world exists is because Shakyamuni exists. Shakyamuni is essentially what people now call homeless. The ones who actually rise and celebrate and say, I'm actually having a good day. This planet provides me a place to actually rest and hear the best types of things to go to sleep to, and people be looking on their phones, seeing ticks and bugs, and yet I never have a problem. It's possibly because I trust my heavenly planet.
I trust my creation. I trust my love. I trust my language. I trust all my dimensions. When I could trust that even in the dimension where I could say, I remember in a meditation, Donald J. without the Krishna, Trump, and Elon Musk without the God given citizenship of a country that he claims currency of. That a lesser of the currency would say, take my eggs, literally, how much are they worth to you? And now, I'm seeing the price to it. And I said to the person who's struggling with methamphetamine, somebody saw us in prayer and gave us $20 and said, you can split it between you two. I was like, hey, thank you. And I was like, all right, let's see if there's a dispensary open. Go to my temple, I'll teach you how to break out of the cycle of addiction. I'll show you some yoga by the river. What happened just like that? The best part is, God showed up, healed, because what happened next was the process of healing. This individual probably received money a lot of times. The sign, the sad face, without the truth. This time, because Jesus Christ was on that stage. Jesus Christ manifested this person during a time where people were saying about Jesus Christ. And then Jesus Christ manifested through me playing the piano, talking about Beat Krishna Watch. Where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to show the world what I like to watch. Whenever I could say, this photograph is funny. This song makes it even better. And when I think about when I told the drummer, Corey, I published it, I did a little bit of an audio effect to it without the Ableton Push 3 Krishna multi-dimensional tablet. I figured I got this Lotus now. I believe we got a lot of dimension already. So I created it, and then I said, let me put this to see what the artificial intelligence could relay to the person who wants to know what I'm singing. I'm gonna tell you what it came up with, okay? Here, let's see. You're gonna believe it. Alright, this is gonna be funny. So it's a 9 minute and 5 second duration. And I said a lot more than this. So apparently it was able to pick up from the minute 3
All right. So what we're gonna do is play with three Christian games. Okay. So there's that. This is what it says.